Walking into a grocery store can be overwhelming. With shelves stacked with hundreds of food varieties and products boasting organic, natural, and additive free claims, some may think a shopper's decisions lay completely in their hands. Unfortunately, this is not the truth. Genetically modified foods are not required by law to have informative labels, often leaving the consumer oblivious. But are GMOs even bad for us? Before we examine this question, it is important to understand the definition of a genetically modified organism. GMO plants have DNA that has been modified to resist viruses and survive in harsh environmental conditions. Basically, DNA from other organisms that have preferable traits are inserted into a plant with the help of enzymes. In America, over 80% of our food contains GMOs. One of the problems with GMOs is that studies have repeatedly shown negative health outcomes from consuming them. And to further complicate, not all GMOs are created equal. Inserted DNA often comes from bacteria or viruses that are not well studied in the scientific community. A big health issue with consuming GMOs is the potential of triggering allergies. GM soybeans were introduced by incorporating virus-resistant genes from Brazilian nuts. However, since many people are allergic to nuts, this gene triggered allergic responses in many consumers. Even worse, the GM soybean contains 7 times more soy allergens, a substance known to trigger an allergic reaction, than non-GMO soy. This created a soy allergy epidemic in the 90s. When a genetically modified gene enters your system, it could contain antibiotic-resistant sequences, making it dangerous to anyone who takes medicine because the antibiotics wouldn't work. For example, some studies have shown that pregnant women who consume GM foods have babies that do not respond to medicines like amoxicillin, which is needed to treat infections like strep throat, which can become fatal in infants. Many people are also scared that GMOs can cause cancer. But is there basis for this fear? All cancers are caused by excessive duplication of mutations that a person acquires in their lifetime. Genetically modified DNA has proven to be unstable and cause these DNA mutations. However, there is a lot of conflicting research tying GMOs and cancer. For example, a popular study in rodents has shown that there is no increase in cancer due to long-term GMO consumption. Contradicting research makes it confusing for consumers to determine if GMOs are actually bad for their health. FDA policy states that it is the responsibility of the producer of a new food to evaluate the safety of the food. The US government has decided that GMOs are substantially equivalent to traditional foods, so there is no need for more oversight. As a result, the safety testing of GMOs is left to the very companies which engineer them. In the 25 years since this decision, the FDA has not overturned a single safety determination or required additional testing of any GM crop. Despite many instances where corporations have clearly repeated studies until they produce the desired result or have actively hidden their scientific data, there has been no consequences. Additionally, one of the largest criticisms of GM crops lies in the way they're grown. Unfortunately, GM crops and heavy pesticide use go hand in hand. A large class of GM crops are engineered to be resistant to pesticides, like Roundup Ready or glyphosate, and then they are strategically marketed by large chemical companies. These chemical production companies like Monsanto, Syngenta, and DuPont sell their pesticides and pesticide-resistant seeds as a package. Over the years, these companies have become more and more powerful. Now, just 6 companies control almost 75% of the world's pesticide market. The testing of their pesticides has raised outrage from all communities across the globe, from India to Guatemala to Hawaii. However, pesticide companies are able to ensure that there are limited regulations on chemical testing. Many chemical industry executives fill positions in the Environmental Protection Agency and discourage federal funding for chemical regulation. Hawaii has become a perfect example of a government's failure to protect its citizens' health. Kauai has by far the most experimental testing fields of any state, as its climate and fertile soil make it the perfect environment for growing GM crops. Studies reveal that companies use 17 times more highly toxic or restricted use pesticides on experimental fields than farmers use on traditional fields. Between 2013 to 2015, companies sprayed 18 tons of these restricted-use pesticides. One such pesticide is called the 2,4-D, an active ingredient in Agent Orange, which causes reproductive problems and cancer. The majority of restricted-use pesticides cause sexual development defects, cancer, neurological and brain problems, and damage to the lungs, heart, kidneys, adrenal glands, central nervous system, muscles, spleen, and liver. But even more fear truly lies in the unknown. Kauai's farms do not have to file environmental impact studies or even report what they are spraying, or where, or when. The State Department of Agriculture only has one employee assigned to review the thousands of pesticide inspection reports. In Waimea, residents reported pesticide-laden dust from DuPont experimental fields blowing into their homes. Hawaiian school children have been sent home from fainting, dizziness, headaches, nausea, vomiting, and respiratory discomfort because of Syngenta pesticide spraying next to schools. All of these incidents have gone unpunished. And despite guidelines from the Clean Water Act, there is no statewide program for testing pesticide use in air, water, or soil.
One way genetically modified crops can be good is the possibility for them to help end world hunger. Since GM crops are seen to have large amounts of yields compared to organic farms, scientists are trying to manipulate different foods in hopes to discover the perfect formula that will increase food abundance. Since rice is one of the most eaten foods in both developing and developed countries throughout the world, a scientist named Ingo Patrikis began to focus on experimenting with rice. Eventually, in 1999, he created the golden rice, a genetically modified yellow-colored rice that has nutritional benefits through an increase in vitamin A. The golden rice provides 60% of the vitamin A that people need in a typical day. Since vitamin A deficiency, commonly known as VAD, is a life-threatening problem in developing countries as it creates blindness and can lead to death, Patrikis' intentions were to solve both hunger and VAD with his golden rice. When children are weaned, they're often weaned on a rice gruel, and if they don't get any beta-carotene or vitamin A during that period, they can be harmed for the rest of their lives. Not only did the golden rice attempt to decrease hunger and VAD, but it would also allow for jobs and economic growth in the same developing countries. Due to the high controversy between genetically modified foods, the golden rice has yet to be seriously introduced. However, with models like this, we can possibly solve life-threatening problems. Another way in which GMOs can be seen positively is when examining the margin of which crop yields are increased. Because of how easily GMO products can be modified to be immune to external influences that might plague ordinary crops, farms can produce large quantities of product because they can account for the fact that all their crop will be the same. Similarly, farmers are able to account for certain damages because of how each seedling has been engineered to be monotonous. Illnesses or reparations are thought of prior to harvest. One significant example is the production of corn. Scientists have been monitoring corn production since GMO corn seedlings were introduced into the general market. It has been noted that corn yields have increased up to 25% when GMO seedlings are used. In 1998, a proud Hawaiian named Dennis Gonsalves created the first genetically modified papaya. Due to the ring spot virus that threatened the sacred Hawaiian fruit, Gonsalves used his plant pathology education in an attempt to find a solution. Gonsalves injected the virus itself into the papayas, similar to a human vaccination, in order for the fruit to become immune. His solution rapidly became popular and has since taken over as primary papaya strain in Hawaii. Gonsalves saved the papaya industry from extinction. The use of GMOs counteract the natural environment. Instead of external factors such as weeds, bugs, weather, scientists can account for these aspects and in turn ensure the well-being of their crop. Originally, farmers had to account for significant margins of their crop being destroyed by the infestation of new weeds or bugs. But farmers now no longer have to concern themselves with natural environments, as they can alter plants to adapt to their surrounding environment, making them virtually indestructible. The use of GMOs are highly contested among even the most respected scientists. One highly discussed solution is the introduction of sustainable farming and localized agriculture. Reintroducing agriculture and farming in local communities is paramount to resolving this debate. While some argue that sustainable agriculture is unrealistic, in actuality, if communities could push for sustainable and localized farming, we can see a dramatic change in how farms operate and in turn how an unhealthy food production agency operates.